This is a CBC podcast.
The Afrosphere. Cory Doctorow's memo to Paris Hilton, and a correction to our first journalistic mistake. Those are your keywords. I'm Jesse Brown, and this is Search Engine. Like most people, I'd never heard of the Gina 6 until last week's march made international news. The story seemed to come out of nowhere, but within hours, George W. Bush was issuing a statement on it. Even David Bowie got involved. It was everywhere. But if you missed it, here's a 25-cent summary. Gina is a small town in Louisiana, population around 3,000, of whom 80% are white. On August 31st, 2006, a black male freshman at Gina High asked the principal if he could sit under what was known at school as the white tree. The principal told him that he could sit wherever he wanted, and he and his friends did. The next morning, students returned to find nooses hanging from the tree. The school found the kids responsible, white kids, and suspended them for 3 days, calling the incident a prank. After that, things got bad. A series of fights broke out between the white and black students. The local DA came in for an assembly to try and calm the situation down. He warned the students that if they weren't careful, he could end their lives with a stroke of his pen. Things only got worse after that. Somebody burned down part of the school. A white man threatened black kids with a beer bottle at a party and was charged with a misdemeanor, for which he got probation. Later, some black kids had a shotgun pulled on them, and when they wrestled it away from the white gunman, they were the ones charged with theft. All of this led up to December 4th, 2006. That's when a 17-year-old white kid named Justin Barker was beaten up badly, until he was unconscious, by a group of black kids. And though Justin Barker was on his feet that night at Gina High's ring ceremony, the 6 black students who beat him up were charged with attempted second-degree murder. One of them, Michael Bell, was tried as an adult under a lesser charge and was then convicted by an all-white jury. His case was later appealed successfully, but that decision might be appealed, and Michael Bell remains in prison right now. There's a lot more to this story. None of it is very clear, and all of it, up to and including the way that the word Gina is pronounced, is very controversial. Some people think that this is a return of the worst kind of Old South racism, and others have made the case that the whole thing has been blown out of proportion. You can make up your own mind. We'll put up links to some good articles on our website, but what we're going to talk about today on Search Engine, a show that is all about how the internet is changing politics and culture, is the amazing way in which this story suddenly burst out. Now, in showbiz, they say that an overnight success takes 20 years. But on the stage of public discourse, the overnight notoriety of the Gina 6 case took 1 year of constant blogging, podcasting, and mobilizing through the internet. But here's the thing. I read the main political blogs and news sites, and I hadn't heard of the Gina 6 either, until thousands of demonstrators materialized in Gina's streets last Thursday. That's because the people who were using the internet to make the Gina March happen live in a part of the internet where I had never been, one which I didn't even know existed. It's a network made up of hundreds of black blogs, political websites, and hip-hop podcasts that some are calling the Afrosphere. Here's what one corner of the Afrosphere, a hip-hop podcast called The Mixtape Show, sounded like in the hours leading up to the Gina 6 march.
Hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey. This ain't a race war, it's a place war. Fighting for your place in the sun and it's worth dying for. But God is greater than them devil's tricks, because he made the Gina 6 a Gina 6. I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees and watch these strange fruit hang off these southern trees. This is our defining moment. Are you man enough to fight for it?
My name is Jamil Kubega, and I'm calling from Johannesburg, South Africa. I say free the Gina 6.
The dangerous weapon, according to the DA, was the kids' tennis shoes.
What's up, people? This is Agent M from bluntbleach.com over in the UK.
Where's Oprah and all this? Where's Barack? Like, were they out having a fundraiser in Oprah's house?
Karen calling in from Canada. What I've come to learn about the Gina, Louisiana situation is disgusting, revolting, and in my part of the world, hanging a noose from a tree is a hate crime punishable by law.
Yeah, hey, yeah. Free the Gen 6. Hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey.
Those were sounds from The Mixtape Show, a popular hip-hop podcast that last week broke with its usual program of underground rap to raise awareness for the Gina 6. With me now from Riverside, California, to talk about his place in the Black blogosphere, a.k.a. the Afrosphere, is the Mixtape Show's host, Dexter Thomas, a.k.a. Dex Digital. Dex, hello.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm good. Dex, when did you first hear about the Gina 6?
Ooh, I want to say a couple of months ago, but I definitely want to say the first powerful impact that I got from it was definitely through a YouTube video. So somebody called Collateral News, basically just a dude, I think within about 3 minutes, he laid out the entire case, and I was just floored. I was, I don't want to say that I was necessarily surprised per se, but I was pretty angry.
So by the time you became aware of it, it had already been bouncing around the internet, YouTube, different blogs, and I understand that the kind of loose association, the name that is being given to this collection of blogs is the Afrosphere. So Dex, what is the Afrosphere?
Whoo, the Afrosphere. People have definitely kicked around the name, the Black blogosphere. If you're terming the Afrosphere as in more of a politically active or politically aware even group of bloggers, then I would say, yeah, there's definitely a kind of a core group of people that do tend to find out about this information, not only find out about it, actually write on it, comment on it, and so on and so forth, and try to get the word out about it.
So we're talking about a loose association of blogs that concern themselves with African-American issues.
Yes, yeah.
Can you give us a few names of blogs that we might have a look at?
Sure. I'd say one of the major ones that I'd heard of first would be Afrosphere.
Afrosphere,
yes, not with a PH, with a PEAR. I would say another one would definitely be prohiphop.com, and there's definitely quite a few out there. I think if you hit any one of those sites, then you can see pretty much dozens and dozens of people talking about the very same thing.
Well, let me ask you about that, because Dex, you run this hip hop podcast,
right.
And there's other hip hop sites and podcasts that got involved with this, and sports sites and places that are not necessarily political in their intention. So, why did you decide to get involved, and how would you get involved with it?
A lot of it, I think, simply was just an issue of if you've got a platform, then you should certainly say something. The Mixtape Show wasn't conceived as a quote-unquote political base, just as I think a lot of these sports blogs or just entertainment blogs in general weren't conceived of as such. But when they saw something and they saw, wow, this really needs to be addressed, regardless of whatever people's opinions may be on it, it's something that at the very least people need to get the facts on and make their own decisions. I think people saw that, hey, look, I have a platform. I can speak to a few thousand, and in cases of some, maybe a few million people. Why not?
So what'd you do?
Generally, when something like this does happen, I'll generally do an interview. I'll get together some guests that seem to have some sort of background in the situation. For example, when the whole IMIS situation happened, I got a few people together for that. But for this one, I felt like it was a little bit more important to just get ordinary people on it. So it was a little bit experimental, but basically what I did is I have a Skype line, and I just had people call in and leave messages, whatever they thought. They could speak directly to the Gina 6. They could speak to the media. They could speak to rappers who weren't doing their jobs. They felt like whatever. And I basically just laid that up, put it all together, and put it out.
Where were you getting these calls from?
The calls were really coming from everywhere. I got quite a few calls from outside of the country, actually. A lot were coming in from Canada, from South Africa. I mean, pretty much everywhere. I had one from Peru, I believe, but it was a little scrambled, so I couldn't include it. But, I mean, the UK was definitely well represented in here. And then, of course, most of the states in the United States as well.
You had to be pleased with the results, huh?
Yeah, I put it out, and pretty much immediately some emails came in saying, hey, I'd never heard of this. Thanks for putting it out. And then beyond that, another thing that I wanted to do was kind of take some of these hip-hop artists to task. If you look at the kids who are in here, I'd wager a guess that at least some of them listen to hip-hop. And I definitely remember being 16 and 17. You feel like these artists speak to you and you identify with them. God forbid you glorify them, you idolize them, you want to be like them when you grow up. and then in your hour of greatest need, they're gone.
That was really interesting to me listening to your show, that you were not just asking the mainstream media to pay attention to this. I mean, you sound so concerned on the show, and you sound angry that this thing is getting ignored, but not just by the mainstream media. You're also asking, where's Kanye?
Right. I do think that the bloggers did push a lot of these hip-hop artists to say something. I know that, for example, when people first started getting upset, hey, where are hip-hop artists, there were a few artists who would post on their, hey, let's face it, it's 2007. They would post on their MySpace and address those concerns and say, hey, wait for a second, I'm making a song right now. And then, lo and behold, one of those came out, and it's in the intro of the show that I did.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we're going to look at this as like a 6 degrees of separation thing, we got from the bloggers to podcasters like you to rappers to civil rights activists like Al Sharpton and then the president.
Exactly.
So, Dex, now that we know that this tool exists, that the Afrosphere or what have you can mobilize 10,000 people, now that you got this tool, what do you think should be done with it?
I guess the same thing that we've been doing so far. I mean, now we know that we've got this power because this whole campaign and this whole thing really was birthed from the blogosphere. A random 15-year-old kid from Iowa can post something on his website and say, hey, listen to this, you guys, this isn't right. And, that gets 50 people checking his stuff out, 50 more people check it out from there. And it really is a powerful tool. I think when it's used right, the internet and all the technologies associated with it can definitely be used as a force for positive change.
Dexter Thomas, a.k.a. Dex Digital, thank you very much for talking with me today.
Thanks for having me.
That was Dexter Thomas, host of The Mixtape Show, which can be found at mixtapeshow.net. While the case of the Gina 6 is the first encounter most of the world has had with the Afrosphere, there was in fact a precedent, a similar case just 1 year ago that hinted at the burgeoning power black bloggers would have. In March of 2006, a 14-year-old girl named Shaquanda Cotton was sentenced to 7 years in Texas's juvenile detention system for shoving a hall monitor at her high school. Search Engine reached Shaquanda's mother, Creola Cotton, at her home in Paris, Texas, to ask her about the role that the black blogosphere has played in freeing her daughter. Hello, Creola Cotton.
Hello.
Tell me about when Shaquanda was in prison and you were trying to get her out. What was that like, and who was helping you?
It was a terrible time. I was just calling and trying to talk to anybody that would help, but no one seemed to be interested. You know, to them, she was just a little bad girl who had committed a crime. I had been talking to Gary Bledsoe from the National NAACP, who had talked to Howard Witt from the Chicago Tribune, and he did a story on her.
And what happened after that story came out?
After the story came out, I got countless calls from a lot of the internet bloggers who would tell me that it was being read all over the country, and then so many of the internet bloggers would send out to other people who kept sending out to more people until we just had the whole country involved.
So it was sort of like a snowball effect.
Yes.
And what effect did that have on the Texas Youth Commission, the people responsible for Shaquanda's incarceration?
It had a great effect because people were writing the governor, the judges, the DA. They just had letters pouring in demanding her release. We had a protest here on March 27th. All of this made a great impact, and on March 30th, 3 days later, I got a call saying that they were fixing to release Shaquanda.
So you see this as directly related to the protest?
Of course. The protest and all the people that wrote in and called in.
Now, I understand, Ms. Cotton, that you've been active in the civil rights movement for a long time before this incident, and I'm just wondering what you think about the way that this story went from being so unheard to getting so much popular response, and how things like the internet affected that.
The news article came out, which that was great. That was the beginning. But the Internet took it so far, and that's what made the difference.
It's interesting looking at the Gina 6 case and then looking at your daughter's case and seeing that there was something that happened earlier that maybe gave us a hint that this was going to happen. And I'm wondering, as you watch what's happening with the Gina 6, how do you feel about that?
Well, I was at the protest in Gina the other day.
Oh, you were? You went?
Yeah, Shaquanda and I both went, to support them.
Is Shaquanda home with you now?
Yes, she is.
Do you think I could ask her about the Gina 6?
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much.
Hello?
Hi, Shaquanda. This is Jesse Brown with Search Engine in Toronto.
Oh, okay.
I understood you went to the rally in Gina.
Yes.
How was that?
Well, I think it was amazing how all the people came together to try to protest and, make a change within the system down there, because I don't think it was right that the boy was given 20 years for, a school fight. I can't imagine, how it feels to have 20 years, but, I can kind of relate to that because I was given up to 7 years, but, I couldn't just imagine how the boy and his family feels to be put in that position.
Mm-hmm. Shaquanda, I understand that you weren't aware of all the support you had on the internet until you were released.
No, I wasn't.
And what was that like when you found out about that?
It was amazing because I wouldn't think that, like when my mother showed me the pictures of the protests and I seen all those people protesting in the rain for me, it was like that I was happy that they would do something like that for me.
And now you're turning around and trying to do the same for Michael Bell.
Yes.
And what do you hope happens in Gina?
I hope that he gets out because it's just not right to do a child like that.
Shaquanda, thank you so much for talking with me today.
Okay, you're welcome.
While the gaze of the media has largely moved on from Gina, Louisiana, many blogs are still lobbying for Michael Bell's release, and others continue to analyze the significance of the Gina case. One debate is currently focused on why the main progressive blogs failed to help mobilize for the Gina 6 rally, and if in fact the global village has become segregated. You'll find background and links on these developments on Search Engine's website at cbc.ca/search engine. I'm Jesse Brown, and this is Search Engine, a collaborative radio show. Since we began broadcasting a few weeks ago, we've been collaborating with listeners in a new kind of way, with a project called Mob Docs, in which anyone in our audience is invited to be a freelance reporter. We've put the call out for audio submissions that answer the question, what does the internet sound like? So far, we've played audio from Israel, from Vancouver, and from inside a computer program that converts web searches into sound. This week, we received a recording made in Cape Town, South Africa, in a place called Democracy House. There, 13 young people from all around the world are working on a project called Why Democracy. More on that in a moment. But first, here's what the internet sounds like in Democracy House in Cape Town.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Eric, when will you send the passage to the university?
I just have to make a call for Brazil and I'll be leaving.
John, we need an active link on the Arsenal cinema page. Should I call them?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah? Okay.
Let's do that. We want links.
Yeah.
That's, I think I just got a Skype call. I hung up on whoever.
Hallo.
Ich rufe aus Kapstadt
Hallo,
vom Why Democracy Projekt.
Hey, do you,
Eric.
do those blocks?
Tudo bem?
Do you have to pick those up for me?
Getting them tomorrow.
Getting them tomorrow.
Tô ligando só pra confirmar.
I don't know if I need all of them anymore, you know.
Tá ok.
See what's democracy in Chinese?
Obrigado.
Wing Chua.
Wing Jua?
Yeah.
Ming Jua.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually.
Oh, fantastic.
Awesome.
That was the sound of the internet in Democracy House in South Africa, where 13 young people are working together on something called Why Democracy. Why Democracy is a project 3 years in the making involving dozens of documentaries broadcast to 300 million people around the world. You can watch it here on CBC's Newsworld channel. Now, the intention of Why Democracy is to spark a conversation about, you guessed it, democracy. If you're catching this show on Thursday, September 27th, you can come to their site at whydemocracy.net, where I'll be guest blogging throughout the day. We also invite you to send us your mob doc clips. What we're looking for here are sounds of what the internet sounds like where you are. If this grabs you, check out our website for all the details. You can also hear other people's submissions as they come in. We're at cbc.ca/search engine. Just look for mob docs. I'm Jesse Brown, and this is Search Engine, a show that is always looking for new stories. If there's something you think we should be covering, or some Creative Commons music you'd like us to use, let us know. Look for the story pitch form on our blog at cbc.ca/search engine, or just email us at searchengine@cbc.ca. The battle for information access is being fought on many fronts. Now, there are few higher-ranking generals in this war than Cory Doctorow. He is an author and an activist whose thoughts about privacy and free expression are read by over 2 million people through his group blog Boing Boing. From time to time, Cory Doctorow will come on to Search Engine to share these thoughts with you in a feature we call Copy Fight.
Since the 1970s, pundits have predicted a transition to an information economy. The vision of an economy based on information seized the imaginations of the world's governments. For decades now, they have been creating policies to protect information. Stronger copyright laws, international treaties on patents, trademarks, treaties to protect anti-copying technology. Their thinking is simple. An information economy must be based on buying and selling information. Therefore, they figure, we need policies to make it harder to get access to information unless you've paid for it. Without the ability to fence off your information property, you can't have an information market to fuel the information economy. But this is a tragic case of misunderstanding a metaphor. The industrial economy wasn't based on making it harder to get access to machines, and the information economy won't be based on making it harder to get access to information. Indeed, the opposite seems to be true. The more IT we have, the easier it is to access any piece of information, for better or for worse. I wrote this in a hotel room in Shanghai, behind the Great Firewall of China. Theoretically, I shouldn't have been able to access blogging services that carry negative accounts of Beijing's doings. The Chinese bureaucrats have deployed their finest engineering talent to stop me. Well, these cats may be able to order political prisoners executed and their organs harvested for party members, but they've totally failed to keep Chinese people, and big-nosed tourists like me, off the world's internet. The WTO is rattling its sabers at China today, demanding that they figure out how to stop Chinese people from looking at Bruce Willis movies without permission. But the Chinese government can't even figure out how to stop Chinese people from looking at seditious revolutionary tracts online. And of course, as Paris Hilton, the Church of Scientology, and the King of Thailand have all discovered, taking a piece of information off the internet is like getting food coloring out of a swimming pool. Now, to see the evidence of the real information economy, look to all the economic activity that the internet enables, not the stuff that it impedes. All the publishers selling obscure books through Amazon that no physical bookstore was willing to carry. Those tailors in India who sell bespoke clothes to Westerners via eBay without intervention by a series of skimming intermediaries. The internet-era musicians who use the net to pack venues all over the world by giving away their recordings on social services like MySpace. Many of us sell information in the information economy. I sell my printed books by giving away electronic books. But like a bottled water company, we compete with free by supplying a superior service, not by eliminating the competition. None of us profit by curtailing access to information. For Search Engine, I'm Cory Doctorow.
That was an editorial by Cory Doctorow, recorded for Search Engine in London, England. If you're just joining us, I'm Jesse Brown, and this is Search Engine, a program that strives to be fair and balanced in its journalism. However, sometimes, despite our vigilance and rigor, our biases get the better of us, and an imbalanced piece makes it onto the air. Such a case occurred on last week's broadcast. We regret that this happened, but when it does, we try to rectify the situation. And with that in mind, we now bring you a counterpoint to last week's item, in which we played you audio found on the popular website, IHateYoungPeople.com. In the name of unbiased reportage, we now bring you an audio response found on that same site. Here is I Hate Old People.
Old people make me sick to my stomach, and old people stink.
They're pretty much annoying.
They're rude to us.
They walk too slow. They don't give me no money every time I ask for money.
They hate the piercings and they hate the makeup.
They always wear the same thing and they hate our style.
Everything is wrong or bad to them.
I just tell them to shut up.
They walk mad slow. Oh, my back hurt. Sweetie, can you help me?
Get away from me front door with those wheelie boards!
My friend's grandmother, she's talked too much. Stop wearing do-rags, cause they make you look like a convict.
I am an 80-year-old and I like old jazz.
Why do you have so many pairs of jeans?
Get your ass in the house, boy! My grandmother thinks all my friends are ignorant. Sometimes they are.
Those were voices of hatred directed at the older generation. To upload your own loathing, visit IHateYoungPeople.com, where you can direct your hatred to the young and old. Search Engine is produced by myself, Jeff Siskind, Andrea Morales, our new intern, Tashanta Pambwa, and the Search Engine online community. We make this show through online collaboration. To get involved, visit our site, cbc.ca/searchengine, where you'll also find links and discussion on every story we've talked about, plus our podcast. You can also find us on the Facebook group, Search Engine CBC, or by email at searchengine@cbc.ca. I'm Jesse Brown. Thanks for listening.
For more on all of our CBC podcasts, head to cbc.ca/podcasting.